School. This is Characters. Today I'm bringing you something slightly different. I'm playing some Heads Up 50NL on Stars. I've just tried to make this video. I was going to do a session where I record the full thing and then I go over it in video mode, but it just turned into a bit of a nightmare where people were just like running like God against me, then quitting me, then I couldn't find a game, so I had to stop the video about 3 times. So I'm going to give this a bash. Hopefully we'll run a bit better, and I'm going to actually explain my thought process live as opposed to actually recording a session and then having to quit all the time and it not working. So due to the fact I don't have a great deal of time to keep trying that today, I'm going to make this video live play and you'll get my thought process, sort of in-game thought process for now. Then for the next video I'll have more time to actually go ahead and record an actual session, then we can go over it in pause mode. So my next month's Heads Up video will definitely be that sort of mode. King 10-6, I've just sat down with this guy. I elect to just give up there with no equity whatsoever with 7 deuce suited. We basically just have no, well, we have some fold equity, but we don't have enough fold equity on that board to c-bet, because it's just a really good board for his flattening range out the big blind. It completely smacks at like King 10x double suited. We have no equity. There'll be spots there where we can actually decide to play back or defend when we do have equity, so that's a decent spot to give up with the absolute bottom of my range, and a board that does well with my for my opponent's range there. On table 1 we 3-bet here with ace 4 suited. I'm going to start off these sessions by generally 3-bet bluffing fairly wide for now, just to see how my opponent's going to react and put some pressure on him, put him out of his comfort zone early on in the session. I'm going to check raise this board as a bluff. We've got 2 overcards, backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw here. He's got plenty of air in his range. Jacks is strong enough for me just to be happy 4-betting and then getting it in. It's this guy's first 3-bet, but then we've only played a few hands. We've just sat down. I think Jacks is easily strong enough just to do this. The alternative is flatting. That's not terrible, but not knowing how my opponent plays, there'll be some tricky spots there with Jacks, and I think a 4-bet and getting it in is absolutely fine, and picking up the dead money is in some ways preferable to playing a pot readless with a vulnerable hand like Jacks there. I elect just to give up on this turn. I'm not really huge on barreling here when, I think a lot of his hands are sort of like pair plus straight draw hands that just aren't going to fold, like 6-8, 7-8, this sort of thing. I can bluff this river, but really I feel like I'm going to get hero called here a good amount. A lot of his hands make 2-pair on that river as well, and whether or not he's going to fold a hand like an 8 there, I'm really not too sure. He may expect me to be pretty polarized when I bet that river, but I don't know. It'd be interesting to overbet bluff that river. I think if I did bet, I would make it pretty big, and it would be an overbet. King 7 here, I'm just going to bet this flop. I am expected to get floated by ace high. I've got the intention of barreling on a good amount of turn cards here. We get check raised. I'm going to fold for now. He's not check raised yet. I'm not really sure what he's repping there, but I've got no equity, and I'm just going to sort of take a more cautious approach there. Instead of, like, if I 3-bet bluff there, I think I get shipped on all day. If I float, I probably get barreled a lot. I don't really think it's a great spot to play back. I can flat queen 9 out of the big blind and 3-bet the ace king suited for value. That's a pretty atrocious flop. Last time I 3-bet this guy, c-bet, and he folded, but I think on this board I'm just going to check fold. Unfortunately, I just don't have any equity at all, really. There's so many hands in his range he's just continuing with on this board, like loads of hands like pair plus heart. Jacks and 9s are both good for his calling range. Any hand with a heart in it, don't expect to get folds from. So again, it's a spot where I've completely missed the flop and the board has smacked my opponent's range, and I feel like a check fold's fine in that situation. We've been quit on table 2, so I'm going to go ahead and find another table. Been running like utter death like this entire week all of a sudden, so I'm hoping this will come to an end soon. But it's been a little bit frustrating, to say the least. But yeah, when this happens and you go through periods where you just run really bad, the thing to do is just sort of, stop don't check your bankroll, don't obsess over it, just sort of grind through it and just play for as. Don't overplay if you're feeling tilted, obviously, but if you're feeling okay, just try to grind through it, put in the volume, and that'll reduce the variance eventually. But it's no fun. I mean, Heads Up has a lot of variance, as you guys know, so it's a game that I'd recommend if you're like prone to tilt and you're prone to get pissed off with your opponent and stuff like that. It's the sort of game where I'd advise actually just giving up, like not actually taking up until you're more experienced. 6-max is definitely, or even full ring, even more so. It's definitely a less tilting, lower variance way to grind No Limit. So on this flop we get called. I'm gonna go ahead and just fire this turn. I can get him off float, so I've got some equity now. Although I don't think it's like an ideal spot, but I'm okay just barreling for now. Obviously don't expect him to fold like a king or something. Min raises and completely commits himself. There's not really much else we can do but fold there. But yeah, I mean, I think I can get him to fold like hands like a 6, floats, maybe some like gut shots and stuff by betting that turn. Let me pick up a gut shot. We've got like, 6 outs. To the best hand, it's not ideal, but we've got some equity and some fold equity against our opponent's range, so I think it's okay. We get led into here on Jack 10-10. Our draw is not strong enough that I want to actually raise here and get it in over a 3-bet, but I'm happy just floating here with my equity and betting the turn when check too. That's something to know if he's going to be donking as a bluff. Don't usually play against many donkers, but it adds an interesting dynamic to the games when you come across an opponent that actually likes to lead. Eights is kind of close between calling and 4-betting. He has been 3-betting a lot, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and 4-bet and call it off. Similar reasons to the jacks. I've 4-bet before. I expect to get some spew from him. This time, like, there's a lot of low pairs, sort of ace-x hands I'm doing really well against. I can potentially get it in with. And also, I mean, eights, there's going to be a lot of boards where it's pretty awkward to play eights on, so I'm not surprised to lose this at all, since this is just the way I've been running continuously. In this spot, he bets flop and turn. There's no real reason to raise the turn. We're not going to fold out any better hands. We've got tons of equity. I'm just going to call and make a decision on the river. Make the nut flush, nothing to do but obviously just jam here. And he plays like a total turd, so I guess that was nice. I'm going to go ahead and throw in a 4-bet bluff against this guy. He's been 3-betting absolutely loads. He's just won a pot, so hopefully he's not going to feel too inclined to shove on me there. Hopefully this guy will rebuy, because that was pretty atrocious what he just did. I think I'm going to check back this turn. There are plenty hands with pair plus heart. If I fire 2 here, I certainly want to fire 3, and I'm just not sure this guy's in the mood to give me much credit right now. So I'm going to take a free card with my equity there, just check back. I don't expect him to peel a board like that with just a lone ace high without a draw, so I don't think I've got any immediate fold equity on the turn. And like I say, on the river, due to the dynamic, I'm just not certain that he's actually going to fold when that river comes, so I don't think there's too many aces in his range. I'm just going to go ahead and overbet as a bluff here. Obviously he's not going to fold a set to me, but I think he folds like a hell of a lot of 1-pair hands on that river. I'm going to continue to check back here. Really, there's not much point in betting. And he insta checks the river, though. I've got an easy value bet here with our straight. I'm going to adjust to this guy's 3-betting just by folding a few more buttons. Tighten up my button range a little bit and just look to defend profitably in as many spots as I can against his 3-betting. King Jack here if we get 3-bet. Don't know anything about this guy, pretty standard flat, without any further information. He bets 5 here, he's kind of short, I've got plenty of equity. I think I don't mind calling. I've got loads of equity I can just call for this price. Actually, if I do get it in, it'll often be against better draws or made hands. I don't think our equity's that great, so I think I'm just gonna sort of make a float here. I'll just fold the ace 8. I usually go with like ace 9 or better to go ahead and actually flat without the big blind. And I'm not going to be 3-bet bluffing this guy like super wide, because he's just not been folding at all so far. So I'll tighten up my 3-betting range now that I've established a very aggressive 3-betting image. And I'm going to 3-bet this guy for value with ace jack. Seems a lot like he's a weaker player. Expect him to have a fairly stationary 3-bet range, 3-bet calling range. I'm going to bet this flop with the intention of firing some turns as well. He check raises me. He can definitely be like more depolarized than a lot of regs here. He can be being a tard with like some 9x, even a 7x sometimes, since I do believe him to be a weaker player. I can jam here if I expect this to be a bluff pretty often. He does have some draws in his range actually, like a lot of draws, and I've got 2 overcards anyway, so I think I am going to jam. He's also got some bluffs in his range too. His kings, oh well. But yeah, I mean, I expect him to have like straight draws, gut shots there that I'm doing fine against. Also, if he has a flush draw, I'm usually slightly ahead of it because obviously I've got like close to the nut ace high there. I don't think he has too many made hands in his range. Against an 8 or something like that, against a 9, against top pair or something, I'm actually in okay shape. Not great shape obviously, but I've got like 25% equity to get it in against top pair as well, maybe a bit more. So I think it's okay to jam. I'll certainly note that he's flatting hands like kings to 3 bets as opposed to 4 betting. But yeah, I mean, the way I'm running right now is really sort of testing me to put this video out. I'm running so bad that it's pretty painful, but I'm going to try and get through it and still give my thought process as best I can to you guys, even if I lose like 50 buy-ins in the process. On this board, I mean, he's a weaker player, I think. Well, possibly not actually. He is Silver Star, I assumed that at the start. But I'm going to go ahead and see about this flop anyway. I could get enough folds here. Nothing to do but check back the turn here. I obviously don't want to get check raised. I can't really bet for value, so I'm just going to have to check back the turn and evaluate the river. Don't really think I'm barreling him off too much by betting that turn or that river. He's probably calling with ace high now. Certainly never folding a hand like 7s. Hand like queen 2 is a hand I'll be 3-betting against someone who can actually fold to 3 bets, but so far this guy hasn't shown any tendency to do that at all. These are the sort of board textures like Jack 5-4 where you can get peeled on the flop by a lot of weak hands, and there are a lot of good turns like any 10, you know, queen, king, ace. These are all good scare cards. A lot of them actually improve our equity as well. So I like betting the turn on plenty of turn cards there, and we do have immediate fold equity on the flop, so I think it's a pretty easy c-bet. I like to give up on that turn. And on this river, this guy usually just has like a jack, sometimes 2 pair or something like that, so not going to do anything crazy. I almost want a 3-bet ace 5 suited for value just because he seems to be peeling 3 bets like uber wide, but we are out of position. I don't think it's massively ahead of his calling range. I was going to 3-bet there, but then I remembered this guy likes to flat like big pairs and stuff like that. So if he's actually got a lot more value hands in his range than most people would, I think I'm fine just calling there and evaluating the turn. My hand's obviously too strong to fold immediately to that. Versus a lot of guys who are going to ship like ace-x on me on that board, I'm just going to 3-bet and get it in. But against that guy, I think his value range is a bit wider, so I may be owning myself by doing that. Jack 9-7, this isn't a bad spot just to check back. Don't really want to get raised. We've got a gut shot, we've got decent showdown value with ace high, and again the board does really well for this dude's range, so we expect him to be continuing to c-bet on that flop a decent amount of the time. Obviously just going to raise our straight on the turn for value. Maybe he'll spaz it, is probably not, but we can get called by a bunch of 2-pair or whatever as well, I think. Given what this guy thinks of his queen 9, I'm fine, just happy flatting that to a min raise. Let's go ahead and dunk this turn and get him off a lot of ace high. I've got equity, it's about the easiest turn lead in the world, really. If this guy continues 3-betting like an absolute shitload, what I'll probably do is start min raising the button, and that just allows us to lose less money when we do fold to 3-bets, gives us more room to play back, allows us more room in position if we do flat, gives us more room to do things post flop basically. I'm gonna go ahead and just lead this turn. I'm gonna make it pretty big, so I really want him to fold like a hand like ace high or 5. I'm gonna bet the river as well, because I think his range is pretty weak when he calls a turn. He has a lot of pair plus draw hands that'll call 1 but not 2, so I think just firing 2 is definitely the play there. And he's seen me 4-bet call with 8s. He's 3-bet bluffing a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and 4-bet bluff here as well. If he thinks I'm 4-bet calling a wide value range, I don't think he's going to mess with me too much here. So I think we should get a decent amount of folds. The queen's actually a pretty good blocker in this spot. Blocks hands like ace queen, like pocket queens, king queen, a lot of the better hands that he might be 3-bet, 5-bet jamming. So I think it's a pretty decent spot to 4-bet bluff. Generally there'll be a lot more 4-betting, 4-bet bluffing, 5-bet bluffing, getting in a lot lighter than what a lot of you guys are going to be used to if you're used to playing 6-mix. But it's the nature of heads up. I mean, you just can't take passive lines heads up or you're just going to get run over. Unless your opponent's totally owning himself, in which case you can let him do that. But most of the time, you do have to create aggressive dynamics so that you can sort of defend yourself from being run over, and set up a dynamic where when you do flop value hands and stuff, you're just getting paid off like a high amount of the time. This guy gives me a few 3-bets in a row. I'm not sure what to think about that, because I don't think he's really a reg. He could be a reg, but I don't think he's like one of these regs that, you know, watches training videos and things like that. Because I mean, if I think he is, then often like the third 3-bet in a row, you'll find it's like an old sort of 2+2 trick that will be a bluff fairly often because no one expects it, etc., etc. But I'm going to go under the assumption that this guy's not really on that level for now until proven otherwise. So we flop the nut flush draw here, which is nice, so I'll probably just go ahead and bet 3-bet here and look to get it in if he does check raise me. I can flat e9 offsuit there, but I'm just going to elect the 3-bet. I've not been doing it too much recently, and he has been folding to me before. He calls our c-bet on this board. I'm just going to like to give up without any equity on this turn. I mean, it's possible he has a bunch of floats in his range, whether he even folds floats that have an ace in them now, though I don't even know, so my equity is absolutely terrible, so I'm okay just check folding there. although it's an aggressive game, you have to still show restraint in some spots where it's just going to be negative EV to keep shoveling money into the pot. And it's very easy to forget that when you're running like crap and you just want to basically blast every board texture and things like that, because, you know, heads up can be frustrating, but it can also be very rewarding when you run good, because, you know, you get some downswings at heads up, you don't have to get some heaters as well, and if you play well, get your opponent on tilt, capitalize and take advantage of those heaters, you can make a good bit of money. Easy barrel here with a queen, like equity, a second overcard to scare the crap out of a lot of his range. It's just really standard. It's sort of like the nut barrel spot you can possibly hope for. This dude checks again. I mean, he has been stabbing. If I've checked back, I mean, it's hard for him not to have anything here. Like, if he has a gutter, I think he's stabbing. I think it's more likely he just has some sort of pair here and he's just taking a passive line. There's just not that many hands in his range that are total air that I can get to fold on a board that coordinated. On this river, though, I'm going to go ahead and bet, because a lot of the hands like 6s, 6x and 8x and these weak hands in his range now, I think can fold to this. Apparently not if he calls with pocket 5s, but there you go. I mean, I do rep like rivered random hands or king X, and that's about all, but I didn't expect him to make a hero call like that. I guess he's just owning my soul. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of this format. I do think heads up's so frantic sometimes that it's a lot better to go over hands in sort of downtime, well, in sort of still time where you've just got a recorded video. I think that's definitely better, and I will do that next time for sure. I think I like to 4-bet there. I've been folding to his 3-bets recently. He's 3-betting pretty light. I've got really good stack sizes for it because we're a bit deep. It just makes it far less profitable for him to shove as a bluff or as a semi-bluff or something like that, because he's just risking far more than he usually would be to win the pot. Flop trips here and get raised. I see absolutely no reason to 3-bet this flop. He's either got a better king or air here most of the time, so I'm just going to let to flat. Probably have to call a turn as well for sure. He starts check calling now. I don't know if he's maybe like turned a 9 or he's raised like some sort of pocket pair in the flop or something. I feel I have to bet this river for value though. If he's got a king, I'll be kind of weirded out, because I just expect him to bet the turn always with a king. Just seems really strange that he would ever. Oh, that's just so weird. I mean, I don't see how he can ever have the best hand here, to be honest. It's just so bizarre. Like, why would he check the turn with a king? I'm really not too sure. I don't know, I'm timing down, I'm just going to make the call, although I don't, yeah, pocket 10s, that makes sense. But at the same time, I just don't ever expect him to check the turn with a king, so... And if he's turned equity like a draw, I expect him to bet it as well, so I don't really put those in his range too much. So it's a weird one. It might even be a fold, because it's just like, how the hell can you ever have air there? I'm getting such a sick price, and I'm timing down, and I've been losing all day, so I guess I'm a bit annoyed about that. So I can go over that hand after the video. Let me know what you think about it, but it's I think it should prove pretty difficult to put air in that guy's range there, in fact impossible. So, and all we have is a bluff catcher in a spot where he just doesn't have any bluffs, so it's probably a reluctant fold. I've no idea why he doesn't just jam. It seems pretty retarded to me. You know, it's not going to change my calling range. If he jams, it's still going to be giving me an awesome price. I don't really see any need for it. But yeah, such is life. This has been happening for the last few days, so I'm not totally surprised. I'll try and stop moaning now about how badly I'm running, because I'm sure it's not what you guys want to listen to at all. I don't know, I just feel with my absolute hand strength there and the price I'm getting, it's just so difficult for me to fold in the moment, given how I've been running, and it's probably a mistake, because I just don't expect to ever have the best hand. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and 3-bet 8s here, just because I've been 3-betting a lot. He's calling a lot of 3-bets, so I think I can do it for value pretty happily. I can sort of c-bet this flop just to sort of merge my range and bet for value as well, and then check and evaluate the turn here. I mean, he's not really been folding to 3-bet c-bets either. I'm contemplating a thin value bet in this river. I'll get called by hands like 4s and 5s and stuff sometimes, but there's not really all that 6 and 7 mean that like a lot of the lower pairs that could call me actually have picked up sets, and then there's like 9s and 10s which obviously are ahead of me. Don't expect them to have a king too often, but I don't think I get called by ace high or anything like that often enough to go ahead and actually bet for value there. I think it would be too thin. Keep barreling here. I don't expect this guy to give me much credit, so I'm just going to bet 3 streets. Of course. And he doesn't raise the river. I mean, I just don't understand. I really am at a loss as to why the hell he wouldn't raise that river. I mean, you make the nuts. I'm not really sure what he's afraid of. There's not even a pair on the board. Maybe he feels sorry for me for how bad I'm running, and he's just like, oh, I'm going to call. It's really gratifying if that's the case, but I think more likely he's retarded, who feels sorry for people on online poker. I feel sorry for myself, I'll tell you that. I'm going to c-bet with the king 10. It's a board where I expect ace high to peel me and stuff like that. He's just not folding to c-bets this guy, so again my plan is to barrel. I don't want to 3-bet bluff him too much because he thinks I'm a 3-bet maniac at this stage, the guy on the right. So a hand like king 2 from min raise, getting a decent price to go ahead and flat there. He's not been 3-betting, c-betting too much. He's giving up on a lot of flops. Flop a gut shot in the backdoor flush draw here. I'm just going to go ahead and check raise. Board's pretty damn good for my range. I can rep some stuff on this board. Although, you know, whether or not he c-bets all the time I don't know, but he's been c-betting most of the time so far, so I think I can assume that he is c-betting light a significant amount of the time there. I thought this guy was decent when I first started playing with him, but he's just really not. It's a shame I can't run a bit better versus him, because there's definitely money there to be taken. Again, the jack's like an okay blocker here. I'm going to go ahead and 4-bet, like we're pretty deep. When he flats, I think I much prefer checking back this flop, making a turn decision. Don't really see any merit to betting here at all. In terms of what he's flatting my 4-bet with, I don't know. I mean, expect him just to shove a hand like ace king, ace queen. Don't really see those in his range too often here. He bets the turn really quickly. I'm not sure I'm believing him here, because I'm not sure he's going to do that with, and then he just insta jams the river. It pretty much sucks. I mean, it's so quick. It's like he's not even had to think about it. Oh, fuck my life. I'm at timeout. I don't know. I don't know if I want to call there. I mean, he obviously never has a hand like queens, jacks, kings, tens, anything like that. He has a good ace or some sort of miracle trips or 2-pair hand. But he's not been getting too out of line post flop, this guy. He's been fairly passive. And the speed to which he actually jams the river, it's like he's just already decided. I don't know what to take from that. Again, this board on the right is a really bad board to go ahead and c-bet. It's really good from opponent's range. When I pick up showdown value, there's absolutely no reason to bet. Don't expect him to fold any better hands. sort of mixing up my game here because he's been flatting and floating like so much out position. I think there's a bunch of gut shots in his range here. I can get him to fold on the turn. Although I mean I'm actually ahead of those, so maybe checking back's a bit better. He makes this little river bet. I mean, I don't beat anything on this river now. So this is how to run exceedingly bad at 50 NL. Heads up. I may not be playing my best right now as well, so I apologise if I'm not at my clearest at this moment in time. He checks back the flop and then bets the turn. His river aggression's been pretty damn low, so I think I'm just going to peel here and elect to fold on the river if he bets again. So yeah, I'm not feeling like I'm on my A game right now because I've been running so ridiculously terrible that I just find it difficult to be. But still giving my thoughts to you guys as best I can, given the stress of running terribly. Heads up. I flat a 3-bet with sixes. I get like the worst board in the world. I have no equity. All I have is an underpair. I'm just going to fold. There's not much I can really do there. Although he's 3-betting so wide, I'm going to get a lot of good board textures there. If I flop a set, it's obviously awesome. I have position, so I think it's a pretty decent defend. I may lay off the heads up for a bit after this and just actually play some 6 max instead. On this flop, I mean, I expect him to give me credit like some of the time for actually checking back with showdown value there. So I like to go for a delayed c-bet there. He bets the turn, so I just fold. Thought about leading the turn on the left, but I think just check calling down is probably better. And I will call this river. I mean, I think it's... he hasn't been value betting super thin. And yeah, I just expect when like 2 running over cards come there, he's going to have a relatively high bluff frequency, and my hand's like pretty much near the top of my range, so I'm just going to check call down basically. Got another pretty terrible board to c-bet here with no equity. We turn a pair though, and river trips, which is good. I don't ever expect him to fold a jack or a 10 here, so I'm just going to bet pretty big for value. This guy check raises me on the flop. I have queens. I'm going to elect to call. I think there's like draws in his range. There's maybe some king x in his range, although I'm not sure how much. I wouldn't expect him to check raise many kings. I think he 3-bets most of his better kings and then doesn't check raise his worst kings, so I don't really see any reason to bet the turn there. I will probably bet the river if it checks me again. If he's got like any jack or 10, I think I can get a call, and I'd expect him to bet a king at this point in the river, although he has been playing really strangely when it comes to actually turning like the nuts and then giving up and things like that, and then sort of checking to me. I can't resist a value bet here though. It's just too likely he's like turned or rivered a pair that he's not going to fold. It's thin-ish, but I mean, I think it's okay. I like to defend the jack 7. This dude checks to me. I'm gonna go ahead and just bet here. I'm gonna get a terrible turn. I mean, there's a lot of good turn cards for us to fire there because his range is gonna be weak, but that's just such a bad turn. Like, I don't expect to get many folds on it. I expect to get hero called like pretty much all day on that river. Kinda sucks, but there's loads of good turns for us to bet there and get him off a hand just like ace queen, because that's what I expect his range to be like. But of course we don't get one. I like to check call this board here. We've got overcards, backdoor, straight draw, and showdown value against this guy. He doesn't have a whole variety of strong made hands in his range here. Of course he flops top pair though, of course. It's a good instructional video on how to run completely horribly at heads up. I think it shows the best way to run horribly, like how to lose in absolutely every situation. And most importantly, a good part of this is it really educates you guys on how to constantly run into the top of your opponent's range. If you're ever in a situation where you want to adjust to your opponent by letting him win every hand and run into the top of his range, just do this. Just log into my stars account, play a bit of heads up. I'm going to barrel this turn because he'll fold like ace highs that he's peeled the flop with for sure, as well as like, I don't know, there's some rivers we could bet, although I'm not overly convinced he'll ever fold a pair to me, but certainly ace highs in his range, and it certainly folds the turn, and we've got a good amount of equity as well. On the left here, we have like some equity, obviously no showdown value, plenty of his range folds here, so I'm going to like to bet. I'll barrel this turn as well. And we actually flop the nuts for once. And of course he folds. I give up on the river there because all the draws brick. There's just no way he's folding much of his turn calling range. Maybe threes, but that's about it. Often he's just going to have some sort of middling pair there that he's just never going to be inclined to fold to us. So it's a pretty bad spot to bluff a river in. Turn 2 pair, easy raise for value. He's going to call us with a queen. He's obviously stabbing the turn pretty wide, with almost his entire range it seems when I check back flops. I'll go for a check raise on this turn, so I'd expect him to bet king again, and any worse 9 again, and allows him to bluff, so check raise is clearly the best line. I don't like leading there at all. Against someone who just doesn't fold the c-bets, like both of these guys, basically you can just c-bet a hell of a lot wider in a lot of situations. It's not the best turn to really continue on though. And you know, he's got a lot of better sevens in his range here. Has some worse hands, but whether they'll call on the river or not, like a hand like ace 3, I kind of doubt. I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet call this off, just because I expect him to think I'm full of shit here. I think he's going to jam like some overs on me, any straight draw that I'm doing pretty well against, and he just hasn't been raising like for that much thin value. Like I guess he can have a hand like ace 9 here, but I don't expect him to ever have over pairs or anything like that. And I think when I 3-bet that board, it just looks like I'm repping nothing. So I kind of expect him to spaz a good amount there. So I'm going to mix up my game instead of just calling down like I have been. I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet call it off. I think it looks a lot like I'm getting sick of his check raises and stuff like that. So I think it's a good line. And the other thing is, on boards where your equity's terrible and your barrel opportunities aren't great, you just have to give up against people who call every c-bet under the sun, because when you do have pairs you can just town them, so there's no need to feel like you have to defend your right to c-bet every single board. You know, give them some pots and then basically just take them to town with your value hands and don't go too crazy. You know, you don't have like a natural right to be able to c-bet every board. It's something some people let you do, but if they're going to just, you know, continue to 70% or 86% of c-bets, then obviously you have to change up your game a bit. A little bit deep with fives here, getting a great price, so I'm just going to go ahead and call. I'll check fold this board. Under pairs are generally like the worst thing to defend with, because their equity is just so terrible. They have absolutely no chance to improve at any stage. Like 2 outs on a board like that is pretty much as bad as you can get. I hope you're enjoying watching me tilt my balls off and run like this. It's pretty fun. Makes a change rather than just sitting like making a video, taking everyone's money at 6 max. So yeah, even the greats of the game like the Carrot Man here can lose as well, it seems. It's a sick life. Next time I promise you guys a more level-headed, recorded version of a video with proper analysis, with stoves, with all sorts of stuff next time I do Heads Up, so stay tuned for that. Do my coaching video at the end of the month as well with my girlfriend, and we're going to go record like an actual session of coaching, so that'd be pretty cool for you guys as well. So plenty of good stuff in store at Grinder School this month. I mean, I would check here, but he just doesn't ever fold to c-bets. He's like floating me with like tons of shit here, so I'm actually just going to bet one for value and take advantage of that and then check back the turn. But I can't do much on the river because a lot of his hands have got there, like gut shots and stuff have made pairs or got there on the turn, and 8x isn't going to bet, so yeah, pretty standard. When I do bet flops against this dude, I'll be inclined to sort of barrel a lot of the better turns for me, just because he is calling out position pretty damn wide on the flop. Make a delayed c-bet here when he doesn't stab the turn. I have no showdown value, so if I can take it down at all, that's obviously good, but he check raises. Again on the right, it's a pretty bad board to c-bet against this guy, because my barrel opportunities just really suck, because when he has a pair, he just never wants to fold on any street, because he often has like straight draws and things like that to go with it. He leads the river. He's been leading like so many turn cards. I think there is some air in his range in this river, like some king high, queen high type hands, and whether he value bets thin wins fourth or straight out, I don't know. I time out though, but I was probably going to call there actually. I think there's a significant amount of air in his range, just because I don't see him value betting like middle pair very thinly there. So I just don't really believe it. I think he's got plenty of air, so if I hadn't timed out, I think it'd be a good spot to make a hero call. Bet the flop against this guy. Turn comes down diamond. I'm contemplating betting turn for value just against his random floats. I've picked up diamond draws, but I think checking back the river and then bluff catching is probably viable as well here. I mean, he's never really folding to c-bets, so I'm not. I think there's like plenty ace high in his range and stuff on this board, so I will be planning on calling a river bet here. I'm not really at all sure why he decides to bet the river with that hand. He's just a strange player, he really is. I don't think he has much understanding about what he's really doing. I'm going to go ahead and throw in a 3-bet. I've not been 3-betting at all recently, so see if I can get some fold equity. Flop top pair, so we just value bet. This guy quits me, so that's unfortunate. Yeah, I've been playing for a bit now, so I'll probably wrap up this video. I think I've lost enough buy-ins for today, so may take a break, go do something else, go chill out. And again, because this guy's such a tard versus c-bets, we're going to c-bet all our middle pair hands. We're not going to check these back here. I think we'll check back and let him do stupid stuff on the river. Not loving this call as much, but again, he's going to have plenty crap in his range too. If he's going to bet all his 3x there, and then all his ace high and his junk as well, then I think it's fine. Alright, play one more button, then I'm going to sit out. So hope you guys have enjoyed the heads up switch to mix things up a little bit. It's always funny to watch the instructor run like this. So I'll try and bring you guys a better heads up video next month, and if you've got questions or comments, leave them on the thread. And I'm expecting that I've played a few hands there fairly badly, just the way I've been running and probably the way I've been playing as a result. So, you know, be gentle in your comments. Don't post in the thread and go, oh, why did you do this? That's terrible. Because, yeah, man, I know there'll probably be at least 3 or 4 spots that are terrible in this video. So there's a little disclaimer for when you give your feedback. Be gentle. So we'll play this hand and then we'll wrap up. Really terrible turn card because so much of his range is ace high and the pairs aren't folding either, so there's just really nothing we can do here but give up, unfortunately. You see, he's willing to bet like a 3 on that river, but he wouldn't be willing to value bet ace high, so he's a good guy to block catch again.